In this video, we're going to dive into the world of deepfakes, and specifically how photo deepfakes are created using the popular open source AI image generation framework, Stable Diffusion. Now, if you don't have time to view the whole video or just interested in a particular topic, feel free to jump into the timestamp indicated on the screen. And please let me know in the comments whether you'd like to see more on this topic or any similar topics for future videos. If you're not familiar with Stable Diffusion, it's a powerful open source tool used for creating high quality images from text prompts. Unlike popular alternatives like Midjourney or DALL-E from OpenAI, Stable Diffusion's open model allows for user-trained models and contributions, which has birthed a massive community of developers and user base. But its open model nature and rise in popularity has also spawned a new age of nefarious use that we need to be mindful of: the widespread use and accessibility of deepfake images. Deepfakes are AI-generated digital media that replicates a person's likeness or image, often indistinguishable from reality. While deepfakes have been a problem for some time, the major advances in generative AI has exponentially advanced the threat while making it accessible to anyone and users of all backgrounds. Before diving into the world of Stable Diffusion, it's important to discuss the various forms of AI-generated content that exist in the world of photo deepfakes. Now, generally speaking, there are two methods for deepfaked images: face swaps or custom models. Face swap, as the name implies, is when you take an original media and use AI to simply swap out the face with the desired target. This can be photos, but it's also how video deepfakes are created, where frame-by-frame generations of face swaps with the target image are replaced with the original. This kind of deepfake is usually lower in quality and less flexible, but does take a lot less resources to create, which is why the flurry of apps that you see on the Apple and Android stores are usually using this kind of technology, which is really powered by Roop or some other type of face swapping framework. Custom models, however, are extremely flexible because instead of swapping out the face from one image to another, you're creating an entirely new image in virtually any style or position you desire. Using generative AI, custom models take more time to create, expertise, and resources compared to face swapping methods, making it the ideal choice in the world of deepfakes, and this is where we'll focus for the rest of this video. In order to create custom deepfakes, we need to pick a generative AI model that allows us to train our dataset on. The popular Midjourney and OpenAI DALL-E are both closed-off models, which means they don't allow outside dataset or training to be used for image generation. And while it is possible to create some images of known people on them, there are significant safeguards in place to prevent this kind of behavior. Stable Diffusion, on the other hand, is a hugely popular open source generative AI model with a robust community of custom models and frameworks. And thanks to front ends like Automatic 1111 and Comfy UI, an easy to use GUI makes it extremely easy to navigate and use right out of the gate. Like most generative AI models, Stable Diffusion, it has a base model, which is like the engine that makes image generation possible. At the time of this video, Stable Diffusion 1.5 and SDXL are the most popular base models that are generally used. We then have a community of user-created models that are fine-tuned for various styles. There are hundreds of models to pick from, with various styles like anime, realistic or photography, cartoon, and of course many others. But the real power lies in these user-created models that are publicly available, trained, and fine-tuned for the specific style and purpose that we're looking for. These community-created models like Realistic Vision, Photon, and many others take the original SD 1.5 or SDXL base model and fine-tune it to have better knowledge of the human anatomy and facial features. These models will generate much better realistic-looking photos compared to the base model, and this is what's generally used in the world of photo deepfakes. However, these models out of the gate, or checkpoints as they're also known, have no knowledge of our target victim, which means that we need to add information to the model in the form of data trainings using the photos of the target in question. Two common approaches to accomplish this are text embeddings or LoRAs. While these two techniques offer different approaches to train the model, they both work by taking pictures of the target, running it through a training process like Cahoya SS, and then referencing the new LoRa and TI when generating our image. If you're interested in seeing this process that I use for Cahoya SS, let me know in the comments down below and I'll create a separate video that walks through my configuration and methodology. For now, we'll skip the details and use a LoRa that I created using Cahoya SS. This is a safe sensor file that is generated, which is what we use as our LoRa file. We'll now load this in Stable Diffusion and reference it in our prompts. With the LoRa and model loaded into our flavor of Stable Diffusion like Automatic 11 Evans seen here on the screen, a simple prompt is all we need to generate our photo deepfake. Simply select the realistic model from sites like Civit AI or Hugging Face, reference a LoRa that was created, and then enter the prompt for the desired photo that you would like using our new trained instance. What's more, you don't have to custom create your own model to be able to create a deepfake. In fact, hundreds of these kinds of LoRAs and text embeddings are available on websites like Civit AI and many others. These public websites can be accessed directly to download figures of celebrities, public figures, world leaders, and of course, many, many more. These were nearly impossible to distinguish whether they were AI generated or the real thing. However, there are signs that we can look for to spot a deepfake or AI manipulated photo. Before we go down into software that can help us to spot a fake, let's review some of the techniques using just eye test. Stable Diffusion and other large language models like DALL-E or Midjourney struggle with certain characteristics of the human anatomy, and this is what we can use to help spot AI-generated content. Let's take a look at our first example, which at first glance seems like a very realistic photo. But upon further investigation, we can start to spot some glaring signs that this photo was AI generated. The first thing to look out for is fingers on the subject. This could be, in some cases, too many or too few fingers, or fingers that just don't go quite well with the human anatomy. When we examine these closely, we can spot this in the image. Hands and joints are still something that these large language models struggle with, and while there are LoRAs designed to help with the human anatomy, usually mixing multiple LoRAs together will struggle with the overall quality and oftentimes not used. The second thing to look out for are limbs. Look for disjointed or unnatural position of the limbs just like you would with the fingers. These are sometimes easier to spot when the subject is sitting or in complicated poses. This is why most deepfakes in photos are usually of the target looking straight ahead or generally facing the camera. Side profile shots are typically not trained well and harder for Stable Diffusion to angle properly due to the depth of certain facial features. This is also the third characteristic to look for when you can see angles of side profiles and start to see that there is a difference between the real image of a certain person. Number 4 is details from the background. You see, Stable Diffusion chooses to focus on whatever you put directly into the prompt, and it only has a finite amount of compute cycles that it can use on non-essential background images. If you see a deepfake photo with a crowd of people, for example, you can zoom in and notice that there are blurred or distorted faces, as well as other facts in the background that don't make a lot of sense. This is in part due to the fact that Stable Diffusion, unless prompted correctly, will not focus on background details unless explicitly told to. Number 5 is text and letters. You see, AI-generated images still struggle at this very basic concept, often misspelling or making up letters that can't be distinguished when looking closely. Even prompting DALL-E on ChatGPT to give me an image of the CISO perspective seemingly looks fine at first glance, but when we look at it closely, we can see that CISO is incorrectly misspelled. It's important to note that while these techniques help us identify AI-generated images today, this may not be the case in the very near future. AI large language models have come such a long way in just these last few months alone that it's hard to imagine a scenario where the next major version doesn't at least improve on some of these characteristics that are clear-cut signs of an AI-generated image. I also mentioned earlier the software does exist to presumably detect the likeness that an image was generated by AI. The problem with most of these tools is that they're not free or open source and still lack a great amount of accuracy in even the vendor's demos. Illuminarity is a popular free tool that can be run by going to their website. In my 5 samples, it gave the real photo the highest AI probability score out of the others, where AI-generated photos actually had a 10 to 20% AI likeness score compared to over 40. Commercial tools like Microsoft's Video Authenticator and Deep Detector also work for photo and video and claim to have accuracy above 90%. But it's worth mentioning that these vendors do not provide public-facing demos to test their claims, and instead give very controlled video samples of how they are detecting this. Perhaps another option to spot deepfakes is actually using Automatic's 1111 built-in PNG info tool. This tool displays the metadata that was used to generate the image at prompt. From this sample, we can see everything that we need to know to replicate this video using Automatic 11, including the prompt, the negative prompts that were used, model, checkpoint, LoRa name that was used, as well as a seed number from when this model was generated. This seed number can be used to replicate, assuming you have the model and LoRa with you as well, to generate an identical image in the same likeliness. Now, it's worth mentioning as well that this option can be disabled and information from the PNG can be stripped off altogether, easily preventing us from reverse engineering the image. Still, it's a technique that we should have at our disposal when trying to examine whether a photo was AI generated or not. This video was meant to be a broad overview of the tools and processes used to create deepfakes using Stable Diffusion. However, this is just one small part in the world of deepfakes, and there's other areas that we need to be conscious of. Video deepfakes with face swaps, where only the face is swapped out from the original photo to a target face. Video deepfakes with audio and lip syncing. This is where the voice is faked and the video is altered to mimic the new audio's lip movements. Voice cloning. This is usually audio only and can be very crucial in voice phishing. And I also want to include here style impersonation as well. Using a person's writing or social media data, an attacker could replicate the target's writing style and cadence, which is important to use when trying to impersonate a person or even phishing. If you're interested in seeing any of these videos or getting more in-depth into anything we covered in this one, please leave your comment down below and let me know what you think. And if you received any value from this video, please do me a favor and hit like down below to give me a boost in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to stay on top of our latest releases here at the CISO Perspective.